Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein, and I'm very happy to be bringing you another episode in our Restarting the Clock series. This episode is titled Tuff Juice, because that's the nickname of our guest, Caron Butler. I've known Caron for his entire 14-year NBA career, but really got to know him when he played for the Lakers and then the Clippers, and he's one of only a few players to actually have done that, to play for both teams. Caron's story is documented in his autobiography called Tuff Juice, My Journey from the Streets to the NBA. And what an amazing journey it was. Growing up on the tough streets of Racine, Wisconsin, Caron was arrested more than a dozen times before the age of 15 for firearms and drugs. He spent time as a teenager in a juvenile correction facility and was committed to getting his life straightened out when he was released through the love of his mother and basketball. But it wasn't a straight line to the life he wanted, and Caron talks about a pivotal moment and decision made by a police officer that changed his life forever. We covered a lot in our conversation, including his time at UCONN and being drafted by Pat Riley and the Miami Heat as the 10th pick in the 2002 draft, his firsthand involvement in social justice issues and getting out the vote, his memories and love for Kobe Bryant, and the deep friendship they shared. Caron is involved in many things off the court, which we discuss as well. Mark Wahlberg wants to make a movie of his story. He's releasing a line of children's books. He's winning awards for his documentary. He's broadcasting games, and he's raising money and awareness for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation through the courage and fighting spirit of his daughter, Gia. This was a really deep and fun conversation with one of my all-time favorite guys that I've had the good fortune to know and work around during my NBA career. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Legends of Sport podcast with the inspiring and NBA champion, Caron Butler. And as always, I'll see you on the backside. So I want to welcome Caron Butler to the Legends of Sport podcast. So great to see you, CB. Looking good?
Likewise, brother. Good to be seen.
Thanks you, sir. Of course. Hey, so how's the family? How's everybody been doing through the craziest times we'll hopefully ever see in our lives again?
I mean, everyone's good in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest, it's been trying. It's been an uphill battle because the optics of the world is, clearly uncomfortable to talk about. But, fortunately for us in our household, we always talked about those things.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids ask a lot of questions, the who, the what, and the why. And I'm excited just to see them evolve and develop as human beings in this time.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, CB, let's get into it, man. We got a few things to talk about, but I got your book, which I read for the second time last night. I ran out of Post-it notes. I mean, seriously. I mean, it was, I just want to quote Mark Wahlberg on the back of this book. He says, "This is not a basketball book as much as it is a book about life, a life of transformation and redemption," right? And we know that Mark Wahlberg loves your book, loves your story, optioned your story to make a film, right? So I want to find out how that's doing. Everything you talk about in your book is so relevant today with what's going on. And I'm sure the conversations in your house, are lively and extremely relevant. I mean, CB, after everything you've been through in your life, right? And the firsthand experience you have with policing in neighborhoods such as Racine, where you grew up, what can be done, man? What can happen now? What do we have to do as a country to come together on this issue?
Well, I think first we have to be honest about the history of how we got here, because I think that's what's being lost and distorted in the midst of all of this. Mm-hmm. We have to tell the real history. We have to talk about the uncomfortable real history of slavery. We have to talk about Jim Crow, old and new. We have to talk about the civil rights movement and talk about the economic gap. We have to talk about all those things and be, real with having call to actions and real solutions. Mm-hmm. And I think that once we're able to get there, that's when the needle will move, with racism as you see it visually, invisible racism, all those things can be tapped into. And then now you can just really have and head down that path for real change. But until you get to that point, until you get where you don't only acknowledge Black history in the month of February, And you're not addressing Black history year round, because Black history is history. When you think about economic inclusion, one of the major ways that America was built with all these private institutions from a capital standpoint was cotton. That was off the back of Black people, and we never got paid for it. So I think that it's important that we talk about that, and going forward, and very important that we continue to educate and inform our kids. But what's different from all the movements that I've seen in the past and what I'm seeing right now in current time is that young people are super engaged and informed. You see multiple generations out there on the front line. You don't just see one generation, 40 and up, or 35 and up with the baby boomers or something like that. You see, 3 or 4 generations out there marching on the front line. And then this is the most important thing. You see it in 50 states and over 18 countries, but you see people from all walks of life being engaged. Not people that just look like me, people that look like you, people that look like, Black, brown, in between. Like, everybody's engaged into this discussion and this conversation to make sure that we drive real change.
Yeah, you say in your book that conversations about white people weren't pretty welcome in your household growing up, and that there was always talk about marching for this, marching for that. I mean, why is it so different now? I mean, I think you just answered the question, but in your Players Tribune article, you just said, man, quote, man, just say something. Like, just like, now's the time, right?
It really is. It's now isn't the time to say this doesn't apply to me, or I'm just uncomfortable, I don't want to talk about it. No, you have to have an opinion in this time. We was in a doomsday, you know what I mean, with the pandemic and everything happening, and live entertainment was taken away from us. So people's eyes wasn't focused on anything. We saw what happened to, the young king Emmett Till years ago, where the woman came out and told her truth and said, you know what, he was so innocent. I am sorry for what happened. And then all of a sudden, this is kind of the Emmett Till situation of our generation, so it's just very important that you don't be politically correct in this moment. And I said, you have to say something. It's not saying that I don't like you if I stand on this side. I'm not, no, it's the right side of justice. The optics tell you. If you're watching a movie and something happened bad, did that guy kill that man? It's a yes or no. It's not, oh, he killed them because the buildup of the story or whatever the storyline was. No, this is a universal wrong across the board. It was abuse of power. And we see more of that, and that's a bad thing. We talked about in America, in the United States of America, every 3 seconds, there's a police encounter with someone Black or brown in the United States of America, every 3 seconds. That is a problem. And when you talk about defunding the police and all these different things, it's not saying that we don't need law enforcement, because that would be naive to ever think something like that. We need protection, we need patrol, but we need good law enforcement. We need people that understand the communities. We need people that are from these communities, patrolling these communities, so they know the pulse of the community and how these communities function and exist.
Yeah, I mean, you very eloquently talk about it in your book that there was a Detective Geller, who could have changed your life one way or the other, and he decided to go the route of not booking you, not charging you for drug possession, and your life changed 180 degrees from that moment in time. So the message of that is that there's good police out there. I mean, it is possible, and I think the message that you're bringing in your book is so honestly, it's very uplifting. It's very positive for the young generation, I believe, to see where you came from, right? And how you were able to change your life and the people along the way. And that's something I wanted also to talk about. There's a couple of major themes in your book, and I know you, and I know your story. The fact that there were mentors, there were people that were so instrumental in your life, starting with your mother and your grandmother, right? And of course, Detective Geller, and your coaches, Coach Calhoun at UConn, and your coach at the main prep school you went to. And of course, our great late friend, Kobe Bryant. When you speak to young people, like you did to my stepdaughter's group, the Health Science Mentors group at the LA Correctional, Juvenile Detention Center, what's your message to young people about mentors, about not being afraid to speak out and ask for help?
I think it's important that you be authentic and you tell your truth, and you have someone that you can bounce ideas off that have amazing observation of life.
Mm-hmm.
And mentors aren't always going to be famous people.
Mm-hmm.
Mentors not going to always be, people that you just, hold up on this pedestal. So like your mentor can be, in your household. Your mentor can be in your neighborhood. It's so many stars and all stars when we see the pandemic happen and seeing people on the front line working and doing the things that they're doing and sacrificing their lives on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Those are heroes. Those are mentors. Those are people that get it, that has empathy and doesn't lack it. So I think it's important that we highlight them in a time like this. And these are the people sometimes that, when they have empathy in these moments, when they understand and have a broad perspective on life, these are people that you can bounce ideas off and get a real perspective on, all right, what should I do? And don't be, pushing away and rejecting constructive criticism. I think that people immediately, when they don't hear what they want to hear, they pivot in the other direction.
Yeah.
And, I've learned that as a young man. It's like, I was always asking questions. And then when I didn't receive the answer that I wanted to hear, even though I remembered the answer that I heard, I was just mad about that encounter.
Yeah.
But then as I got older and more mature, I appreciated those type of conversations with the answer I didn't want to hear, because that was informing me. That was a moment where I got better.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I mean, I have mentors that I still call on 40 years into this crazy business that I'm in, who do you still reach out to? Who's there for Caron when you need to talk to somebody?
Well, someone that, you mentioned earlier in this set is, our brother who's no longer here, Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mentor. He was a confidant.
Mm-hmm.
He was somebody that I would just shoot texts and bounce ideas off all the time, because we was in this march together when you talk about our second acts and how we wanted to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And he was already doing it. He was raising the bar, and, he was just, blazing the path for, others like myself and others to continue to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond Brothers, my longtime, lifetime agent and lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
has been representing me for 20 years now. And he's just been a great friend. He's been someone that's always been authentic and honest. My grandparents, my mother, and, numerous people just that have had some sweat equity and some fingerprints on shaping who I am today. It may vary. I may reach out to Coach Calhoun or Pat Riley, or
Yeah.
I may remember a conversation that I had with, anyone, that I respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be like, hey, you know what? This seemed like an idea you may can help me with or give me some color or two. So
Yeah.
that's important to have.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Coach Riley, because I've known Pat my whole career, and he was very instrumental in helping me kind of get to the next level in my career. If he didn't allow me in his huddle, I tell this story a lot, but I would never have had the confidence of kind of doing what I do, which led to this long career, but also, being on the inside with Phil Jackson and with Kobe and with everybody else and with all you guys, right? And I love the story in the book where you talk about how it was painful for Coach Riley to have to trade you for Shaq. I mean, that was just business, but that he kept sending you notes on that blue note paper, man. That's just an amazing story. It's so Riley-esque right there,
And you know what? I read every one of them.
Yep.
Those notes made me better, and I was looking forward to still receiving those notes. I remember one time I came to practice, Rudy T was our coach for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And I was, I'm waiting on Riley letter, because he usually writes me like once every 2 weeks or something. And coach was like, what? Like you're waiting on a letter from another coach to tell you what to do going forward now, but he didn't
Right.
understand the connection and the relationship
Yeah.
of, Coach Riley and his players
Yeah.
it was different.
Oh man. So Karan, let's talk about our dear friend, our departed friend, the shock of him not being here, and Gigi and everyone else who died that day. It's just it's never going to go away for any of us. It amazes me really about your relationship. You guys only played together for 1 year, right? You're only teammates for 1 year, but yet Kobe talks about you as one of his four favorite teammates of all time, which is that connection. And then he said, quote, I want to read this quote. He said, if I were going into battle, if I were going into a game where everything was on the line, I would want you with me. Right? So two guys from completely different upbringings, right? How did that bond happen? When did that happen in your relationship?
It's crazy because when we got traded and Kobe actually signed the contract at the press conference,
Mm-hmm.
and we arrived, and he immediately said, "It's time to black out. It's time to take it there." So I was just like, "What is a blackout? Like, what does that mean?" And he was just like, "Be here at this time. We're going to start working out."
Yeah.
And he was already there, beat me early, like 7 a.m. or something. Joe and the trainers, everybody there, and we just started working out relentlessly. When you talk about lifting weights, when you talk about getting your shots up,
Yeah.
the second workout consisted of, after the practice, just game speed situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? And then I used to always play them one-on-one afterwards. I always used to, hey, man, come on, man, come back. Play one-on-one, up to 5, up to 7, up to 11, up to 20. Whatever I could do to try to have a best shot to win. And, never did either.
Yeah.
But it was the greatest.
You never beat him.
I never beat him in one of those games. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, I never beat him. One time I had him, and he kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, and we stopped. I was up 3. I needed 1 point, and it was over.
Mm.
But so it's always been one of those unique situations, and I always understood that I was playing with one of the greatest players ever, one of the greatest basketball minds, just minds in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the relationship had started. We was always with each other, away from the game, where if we flew into cities, we would spend time with each other. We would watch film together. We'd go eat together. It was just around the clock. And he said, I usually don't do this. He told me, he was like, he was like, bro, this is it's dope just to have a brother. Like, that's what he used to always tell me. So,
yeah.
And I felt it. I really felt it. And I really knew it was real because after the fact, he was like, where y'all going? Like, you going with Kobe? I was like, yeah, me and Kobe. And like everybody just started like, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Like, he usually doesn't do that. And it was a special time, and I'm so glad I had those moments because a lot of times I just sit back and reflect on those moments and those conversations and things that he would say to me.
Mm-hmm.
When I accomplished, I feel like milestones, in my second act, he would always say, what next, CB? What next?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I'm sure you guys bonded over having kids and daughters especially, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was that, and his second act, that was like, first scene of the second act. that was the most important thing to him. I know that for a fact, as you do. It's so interesting because I read that the piece that you wrote about going to the barbecue or the dinner at your mom's house, the whole team, and like you said, everyone was surprised that he came along, and he was just one of the guys, right? And he rarely did that. I mean, I was around him a lot for 20 years, even with the Olympic team, and it wasn't him just sort of sequestering himself. He just, he liked his alone time, but there were very few people that he would let in, quite frankly, right?
That's real. And I'll never forget, we get to Milwaukee, we land, and I had a party bus or whatever set up for the team. If anybody wanted to come, hey, come get your food, chill, eat. And they was like, who all coming? So I was going down the list. I was like, coaches, y'all straight? And one of the coaches was like, hey, I come. Yeah, I'm hungry. I come. Like, hey, you want to go? Everybody, raising their hand, Chris Mills, everybody. And then I got in the back. It was like, I was like, Cole, you coming? He was like, for sure. Like, I'm coming, like, for sure. And everybody just like, whoa. like Kobe's coming. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's my dude. And he came, and when he arrived there, because I called on the phone. I was like, yo, mom's, she's just like, let me know how many people coming. I was like, I think it's pretty much the whole team and Kobe. She was like, what? I was like, yeah, Kobe's coming.
You mean that Kobe? The same
Yeah,
Kobe?
like, she's like, Kobe. I was like, oh yeah. She was like, oh. And then when we got there,
Yeah.
it took us like 20 minutes to get to the house from the hotel.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of people showed up,
I
because they can't believe it. They're like, he's not coming. And
Yeah.
when he got in the house, sat down, ate, people was like, Kobe Bryant eat ribs. He eat ribs. Like, it was, I don't know, man.
Did he say something after that when he said something? Yeah, and I pump gas too.
Yeah, and I pumped my own gas too. And everybody was just laughing. I'm telling you, man, it was hilarious.
Oh, I love it. Caron, I love talking about him like this because, I mean, quite frankly, the last 6 months, all the conversations really have been sad. I mean, they've just been about the tragedy and about that he's not here. And for us who knew him so well, his legacy is about a lot of joy that he brought us, right? And as friends, I mean, and colleagues, and the conversations, and yes, the tragedy and the void will always be there. But like you said, man, I mean, to have him in our lives for just that brief time, that's like 2 lifetimes for anybody else, I think, right?
Absolutely, and I'm better from it. I
Yeah,
always tell people, it's like, name a game, name this, or name a moment when he was on the court and he hit a game winner.
yeah,
That was something that everybody saw. We
yeah,
know we saw that type of greatness, but I like to highlight and talk about the greatness as a human being and things that people did not see, and moments that where I was down and I was, rattled
mhm.
and confusion with, dealing with uphill things about life. And he hit a game winner for me. You know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah,
came and assisted in a major way, and this gave me that, oh, this is what it is, big
mhm.
little bro. Like, and that meant a lot.
Yeah.
Those,
Yeah, and then you had to go to war against him. I mean, you're
yeah.
on the opposing team. I remember when you were with the Clippers, man. You guys had some epic battles. Would he talk some trash a little bit to you?
I remember I posted this video yesterday. It's crazy you mentioned this. So I posted a video yesterday on Twitter, and people was just like, God, Kobe was cooking. He
Yeah,
had like 40 something, but the way he had the 40 something. He was operating in that phone booth. Just, his footwork was impeccable.
right.
And for people that don't know what a phone booth is, that's what Superman used to
Oh
change in.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
So he was just dissecting us. And I remember I gave him a call or a text. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of them. I texted, called him the day before, and I just said, L.A. Belongs to the Clippers now, Clip City, Live City. And he was like, okay. Like, so he came out, and he was just, I said, what the hell did I do
yeah.
there?
You poked the sleeping bear or something, as they say, right?
Yeah, I got him going, man. He was
Oh,
so
that's funny.
engaged.
That's funny. Yeah, I actually remember that game. I really do. And you could see the Mamba at full speed in that one, man.
Yeah.
Um, CB, I want to talk about this Laker Clipper thing because you're one of the few guys that I know well that played for both teams, right? And you played for both teams in an interesting way. I mean, you played for the Lakers when they were not that great, and you played for the Clippers when they were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, because there's going to be a lot of talk as we get deeper in the playoffs here about whose town is it, and all that. And I don't want to get into that, but because we all know how many banners are up, at Staples Center and who they belong to. But I love the Clippers too, and I've been with them for 35 years. So I love the fact that they're good, and they're both good at the same time. But how was that experience for you? I mean, going to the other locker room down the hall and all that stuff. I mean, was it weird, or how was it playing for both franchises?
Well, you have to understand, and being out here, it's the Lakers' town. Clearly, when you talk about what's been created, the championships, the players that have put on that uniform,
Mm-hmm.
all time players, and just the history is so rich. You cannot tell the story of the NBA and how it was, just the apex of the NBA and how it trended into the right direction without telling the story of the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, it's many organizations that you can leave out when you tell that story in that discussion, but the Lakers and the Celtics go right up to the front of that list. So now, getting past that, you know, this is a time now for the Clippers where it's the first of many. Like you can, I remember winning a Pacific Division title for the first time, and we hung a banner up. You know, that's a big deal for us because it's just never been done in history, franchise history. So we're starting to get a taste of what the Lakers been doing for, 30, 40 years. And that's start. But everyone has to start somewhere. You know what I mean? So I think that, to answer your question, the Lakers was always, like the big brother of, the Los Angeles Clippers. But now you have an amazing talent pool that in the coaching staff and up top, Jerry West and so many others. You have a realistic shot in the window to win championships. You had it with Chris Paul and those guys, and he fell a little short due to injuries and just bad timing of many things and coaching change. But this time, everything is in place, and you have a realistic shot at, creating something special and building the foundation going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you talk in your book about when you were with Washington, and that you felt like you guys let it slip away. That you had that nucleus, and you had that, whatever it took to like get to the next level. And then I kind of feel that way about, that era of the Clippers, that they were just almost there. But like you said, it's a couple of freak injuries that happened like back to back, a couple other things. And it's a shame because, it would have been great to see them kind of at least get to the conference finals, if not further at that point. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So, Caron, I want to talk about your daughter Gia, and what's going on with her. I mean, I know she's right out front with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, the JDRF, right?
Yeah.
And she was diagnosed. How old was she when she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
7 years old. March 7th last year, she got diagnosed.
Right. So you guys do a walk, and it's you're super involved with it. And I saw she's got an Instagram page now, right?
Yeah.
So what can we get out here on the podcast about how people can learn about it, get educated, get involved?
You go to jdrf.com and learn about juvenile diabetes, and I think it's super informing to educate yourself, because a lot of people that have diabetes don't even know, whether it's type 1 or type 2. And, with type 2, people have to understand that it can be managed, through your eating habits and what you put into your temple. But with type 1, it's totally different. And I want people to understand that she has her pancreas does not function. Her body doesn't produce insulin. So she has to take insulin. She has to be monitored. And Gia can have some of the best days where she's a normal 8-year-old now, where she's running around, she's doing all these things and having fun. And then she can have days where you're like, oh my God, like we might have to go to ER, like, and be in the ICU unit for quite some time like we were before. So it's those type of things that's scary, but that is her lifestyle. And, it was a hurtful time this 2 days ago when my daughter had came and just like, I don't want diabetes no more. And I don't want to have this no more. And that's something that just won't go away. It's something that she's going to have for the rest of her life. But she's been a warrior. She's been a trooper. And to answer your question on how people can help is just bringing that awareness. Go to the link, jdrf.com, juvenile diabetes, and find ways to assist and, donate to help us find a cure, because that's what the walk is all about, where we fundraise and, help bring awareness, but most importantly, try to find a cure.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to tweet that out, put it on our platforms as well. And, God willing, next summer we'll be through all this and we'll be able to do the walk with you guys.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. That
of course.
be
Absolutely. So, Caron, what's next, man? I mean, are you broadcasting during this whole bubble experience? Are you involved with that? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I am. I'm working with NBA television and part of the Turner family. So On Thursdays, we do a pregame show for the big show with Kenny and Charles and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the week, one or two times, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually broadcasting from this seat right here, NBA television, where we're just, doing game time and hopping in and out of games. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also hosting the roundtables one-on-one with myself
Right. I
and
saw
talking
that.
to people from all walks of life on the
Mm-hmm.
NBA platform, NBA Twitter Live,
Mm.
where we're just, from Valerie Jarrett to Brian Stevenson to the coaches,
Mm-hmm.
many coaches from the Coaches Association, along with players that's actively involved, that's trying to move the needle in the social justice issues, and
Mm-hmm.
just having that discussion and trying to inform as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to see what the NBA has done down there in Orlando, and we're all keeping our fingers crossed that everything keeps going smoothly and all the tests keep coming back negative, and they get through this season. But those opening games were incredible, right? And all of the social justice elements that were incorporated into the broadcast and into the game itself. I'm really proud to be part of an organization that puts all of this at the forefront. And I think it's amazing. It's terrific.
I really am too. When you think about the first major sports league to pivot out the space and say, you know what, this pandemic is real.
Mhm.
We got to think about the safety of our fans and our athletes. We were that.
Yeah.
You think about the first organization that pivoted into the space and said, you know what, let's give it a go. Let's take a step forward in trying to make this happen in the safest environment, the bubble down in Orlando. And we were the ones to make that happen.
Mhm.
0 positive tests so far in the bubble. Done a remarkable job with that transition, and also making sure that the content is pretty much flawless outside of having fans in the crowd. So I love what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the whole virtual fan thing is a riot. I love it, actually. I'm finding people that I see all the time at Staples Center. Hey, isn't that, so and so? And I'm texting people. They said, yeah, that's me. I'm the virtual fan in the third row. It's hilarious. It's great. But they're doing it, right? And it's coming off. And the quality of play, I got to tell you, 4.5 months these guys haven't played. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. If you haven't played for 4.5 months and you probably couldn't work out because you're stuck in your house, and you're coming out playing like this, right out of the gate, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's also impressive to watch. I'm glad you brought that up, that people have been super obedient, with the way that they live their life.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many unknowns, right? And
Yeah.
you can easily just sit back and be like, yo, like, we're in a pandemic. We've never seen anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way sports is going to come back. And then guys are still training,
Mm-hmm.
eating right. So now they just thrown into the fire. And one of the things that I was concerned about is bad timing, injuries, because we saw that in the lockout season in 2011.
Right.
A lot of guys got hurt in that shortened season because they were just thrown into the fire in the third week of December.
Yeah.
But not the case right now.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, last thing, I saw a post that you put yesterday. Actually, our good friend Eugenia Chow sent it to me. Said, make sure you talk to Caron about this. So you're now an author, children's books.
Oh yeah.
Come on, tell me about that. What's going on?
Oh man, so I just signed a middle grade book series deal with HarperCollins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about that because once again, it goes back to our friend Kobe Bryant.
I was just thinking that of
Yeah,
his books and his series.
yeah, he was just like Karan. You have an amazing way of telling stories and your vision. And I shared this with Vanessa as well. I was just like, because of him, like I went down this path, and I'm excited to just bring these stories to life.
Mm-hmm.
The lenses of these kids and these characters that some are created, some are kind of intertwined with some of the kids that are from our communities,
Mm-hmm.
and just give you this observation of what it's like in those experiences. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be fun. It's going to be super inspiring. I
Yeah.
made characters, you know what I mean? Mascots.
So great.
They got made, so it's going to be dope.
Are your kids helping you with this creatively?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. When can we expect the first one to drop?
First installment is dropping in 2021, second one 2022, and then I got an option on another one, which I'm probably going to do because I just like telling stories and inspiring, man. So
That's
those
so great.
will be coming back to back to back.
That's awesome, man. Well, Karan, listen, man, thanks for taking the time. I'm holding this book up again because it is one of my favorite books. I'm going to read it probably couple of more times, man. But thank you for writing this book and for the message that's in the book. And I'm taking a lot from it. I hope our readers do too. And I know I'll be seeing you. I won't be seeing you like in person, but I'll be seeing you on NBA TV. I'll wave to you from the bubble when I get there. And we'll follow up soon, man. Thanks. And keep doing what you do, because it's just inspiring. And send my love to the family, please.
Hey, likewise. And I appreciate you too, man. One of the most authentic persons that I cross paths with in my life and my career. And I just want to thank you for always being that same individual. You're respected beyond measures in the NBA community, and not just in the NBA community, but in the world, because you're a genuine person, man. You're cut from a different cloth, man, and we appreciate you.
Well, CB, coming from you, man, that couldn't be higher praise. So thanks so much. And thanks for being a good friend of the Legends of Sport podcast. Have a great rest of your day, man.
You too, brother. Be safe.
Take care. Wow, so great to connect with Caron Butler on today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And what an inspiring story of transformation, of success, of giving back. Caron is just one of a kind, great guy. I encourage everyone to read his book, Tuff Juice, because you'll learn so much more than we covered in this podcast, man. We just touched the tip of the iceberg. Please, everyone, please consider donating to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation at www.jdrf.org, something that's near and dear to Caron's heart and that of his family. Thanks, everyone, for continuing to download and subscribe to our podcast. A reminder that you can find us on the LA Times app and online, as well as your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Please keep following us on Instagram at Legends of Sport, Twitter at Legends_of_Sport. Our blog is legendsofsport.blog, and our TikTok and YouTube channels are Legends of Sport. You can find my photography on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. Big thanks, as always, to my researcher and producer, Veronica Ahn. And thank you to all of you. We'll be back next week with another episode in our Restarting the Clock series from deep in the bubble. I will be there reporting from the bubble. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and wear your mask. See ya.